It doesn't take many hours of sunlight for the desert bordering the Chiricahua Mountains in Arizona to become sweltering. The summer heat is a daily challenge for these red harvester ants, scientific name Pogonomyrmex barbatus. These ants rely on a highly specialized communication system to regulate their behavior in order to survive the heat. However, accelerating consequences of climate change have been making it harder for this behavioral regulation to occur. A team of scientists is here to observe the changes. For some of this group of young researchers, the heat is a new challenge. For their leader, legendary Stanford professor Deborah Gordon, it is a familiar sensation. Deborah has been coming to the same patch of desert for 42 years, since she was herself a graduate student. She is, arguably, the world's foremost authority on
10,000
ants.
10,000 species of ants. They all live in colonies.
To the one that the harvester ants are using to regulate the flow of forage.
She's spent her whole career studying how they move and communicate under many different conditions on Earth and elsewhere.
Yesterday I got a chance to catch up with one of the principal investigators of one of the more unique experiments that was brought on board.
This experiment is about expandable search networks. It's about how ants can adjust the shape of their paths to search a space in the best possible way.
Deborah studies the many ways in which ant colonies operate without a central control, with individuals performing their different roles. She wants to describe the systems of interactions ants have that allow a colony to survive and reproduce, and how the changing environment may be affecting these interactions.
The colony has one or two nest entrances, and they go to an entrance chamber. And it's in the entrance chamber that outgoing foragers meet returning foragers. And a forager won't leave the nest until it meets enough returning foragers with food, and it makes an assessment about the humidity, so it doesn't leave to go out on the next trip unless there's enough food coming in and the humidity is high enough to make it worthwhile.
Currently we are looking at foraging data and tracking how many ants go in and out on a given day at a given time.
So we're just keeping track of how these foraging rates are changing over time, and especially with the drought. As you can see, there's barely any greenery in the scenery.
The idea is to see how colonies differ and how they adjust foraging when it's dry. So colonies all forage a lot when it's humid, but some colonies reduce foraging when it's dry.
To us, honestly, we don't know what we're going to find this year, but consistently we find that, some colonies reduce, others don't, and we don't understand why.
Over time, these observations of foraging rates add up to tell stories about how different strategies can affect a colony's ability to survive and reproduce. Afternoons for the science team are spent in the Southwestern Research Station, operated by the American Museum of Natural History, where the team records data, debriefs, and takes some time out of the sun. In the morning, it's important to get an early start to beat the worst of the heat. Everyone puts on snake guards before heading out into the desert scrub.
So we're going to show you what the little kangaroo ant nest looks like. Don't step in the tall grass.
Over time, Deborah has integrated a variety of tools into her research, which increase the resolution of her data. Her son, Sam, lends a hand in using surveying equipment to measure the locations of the colonies. Eden, a student from a collaborator's lab, is on hand with a drone.
Yeah, so one of the ideas is doing just a site survey, so that'll be 100 feet-ish up, and just getting imagery of the entire site. And then what we're working on right now is seeing if we can get the drone at an altitude that you can still see the resolution and the detail of the specific colony entrances, and then having it route to each based on the coordinates that they've calculated.
There's a colony that I go and visit every year for the last 6 years. It's colony 181. So that colony is 40 years old, which is kind of incredible. When a colony loses its queen, it'll die off. So, and that colony is still up and kicking, which is pretty incredible.
Such long-term experiments are rare, and they provide unparalleled characterizations of a species. The observations are also happening over a period of time where trends in the climate can be measured and their consequences felt.
What's happened here is that it's been so dry that the tops of the chambers have just crumbled away. So they were warming chambers for the brood. When they lost the covering, then they just became ways for ants to get outside. The nest entrance is like a valve that regulates the flow. And so when it breaks open and they don't have a main valve, but they have ants coming in and out of everywhere, then they don't have a way to regulate how much water the colony loses. And it's just drier because the soil kept the moisture in and it's drier inside. And so the ants have been dying. This is I think the smallest number ever. We have now 14 new colonies. Last year there were 50. The average is about 30. Been doing this since 1988. I think this is definitely the worst year.
The reason for the decline is somewhat surprising. It's not that the harsh conditions are simply overwhelming the physiological ability of an individual ant to survive, but instead, the heat is reshaping the ant's habitat in a way that prevents them from operating as a collective. It's an example of just how finely balanced natural systems are and how increasingly drastic disturbances can set them askew. Making the most of a bad situation, Deborah and the team dig apart an empty nest, tracing the tunnels and chambers to understand how the dryness caused the collapse.
So this is not right. This is not what it's usually like. It's like a city where you've got the buildings, but the floors of the buildings have all caved in. Central 22 is connected to 23. They were not the same chamber, but there was a tunnel.
Since 2023, Deborah has returned with more groups of students and researchers. Subsequent years have been wetter, but colony loss is triggering cascading changes. Sadly, this part of the story is not unique. Yet some colonies still find a way as the climate changes, and Deborah Gordon will be there to see what happens.